the sun goes round, distant winds making silent sounds, daylight waiting, come relieve the night. So let it shine, 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 shine on me. Let it shine, 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 shine on me. Nothing left where the footprints stand. Roads ahead under scarlet sand. Twilight reaching like angels through the sky. Feel my moment and breathe it in. Search for skies that begin and end. Close my eyes so I can't see the light. So let it shine, 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 shine on me. Let it shine, 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 shine on me. So let it shine, 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 shine on me. Let it shine, 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 shine on me. Yeah, let it shine, 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 shine on me. Let it shine, 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 shine on me.
Well, howdy everybody. Good to see you here. Glad we are back again. Once again, getting ready to jump in, do a little bit of Bible reading tonight. We have got Michael, and I take that we means Shanda is there as well. Henry in the house, Kathy and Dennis here, and Mike Sells. You guys are all here. It is good to see you here. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're able to join along. We are going to be reading James chapter 3 tonight. I was looking around for some notes, and apparently my computer is not wanting to open up. It's saying something about not having enough space. Who knows what that means? I don't know what that means. I mean, other than, well, I use way too much of my computer. That's what it means. So I think Genevieve's bringing me some coffee, little floating coffee hand magic right there. Hot coffee, tasty, tasty, tasty. All right, so we have got, who else we got in here? Kira. Kira saying that she's there as well. And Mike laughing out loud at me, and I think that means I need more space, not my space. My space is a little old. What's Tom been up to? There was a reference that most people won't get. Anyways, I digress. We're ready. We're going to jump in. We're going to get some Bible tonight. Sound like a plan to you guys? Sounds like a plan to me. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to jump in and see what we've got. I have got James chapter 3, New English translation, pulled up, ready to go. We're ready. We're ready to jump in. Here we go. You ready? Ready? James chapter 3. Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers and sisters, because you know that we will be judged more strictly. For we all stumble in many ways. If someone does not stumble in what he says, he's a perfect individual, able to control the entire body as well. And if we put bits into the mouths of horses to get them to obey us, then we guide their entire bodies. Look at ships too. Though they are so large and are driven by harsh winds, they are steered by a tiny rudder wherever the pilot inclination directs. So too, the tongue is a small part of the body, yet it has great pretensions. Think how small a flame sets a huge forest ablaze. And the tongue is a fire. The tongue represents the world of wrongdoing among the parts of our bodies. It pollutes the entire body and sets fire to the course of human existence and is set on fire by hell. For every kind of animal, bird, reptile, and sea creature is subdued and has been subdued by humankind. But no human being can subdue the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless the Lord and Father, and with it we curse people made in God's image. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing. These things should not be so, my brothers and sisters. A spring does not pour out fresh water and bitter water from the same opening, does it? Can a fig tree produce olives, my brother and sisters? Or a vine produce figs? Neither can salt water spring produce fresh water. Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct he should show his works done in the gentleness that wisdom brings. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfishness in your hearts, do not boast and tell lies against the truth. Such wisdom does not come from above, but it is earthly, natural, demonic. For where there is jealousy and selfishness, there is disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, accommodating, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and not hypocritical. And the fruit that consists of righteousness is planted in peace among those who make peace. There we have it. James chapter 3. Lots of goodness in here. And you know what? Let's just jump straight in. The big key, the big theme that we're going to see out of James chapter 3, yep, it has to do with our mouths. It has to do with that tongue, that unruly beast that we have that wants to do what it wants, say what it wants, and yet that tongue can get us all in so much trouble. I look at this and I see what James is saying, and he's giving us these illustrations. He's talking about how we put bits, a small little bit, into a horse's mouth to help steer it. Or how there's a giant ship that is carried by winds, fierce winds, but the little rudder is what actually steers it. So too, as he says, the tongue is a small part of the body, yet it does great things. That tongue that we have will get us going into wrong things. Which, if we look back, what is he actually saying? If we jump back up, and I love it, Charles jumps on here and he's got it. He's saying, not many of you should be teachers. Why? Because we are judged with a greater strictness. But I love it. He's like, not many should be teachers. Why? Look at there's this because. We shouldn't be teachers because we are judged more strictly. But we can even take that out. Look at it. This shouldn't become teachers for, or another, because we all stumble in many ways. And then he goes on and he tells us how we stumble in many ways. The tongue. Be careful to teach people things. Be careful what it is that you are teaching, because your tongue can actually give across and portray some selfish ambitions, some jealousy, some motives. I don't know. We've talked about this before. We've talked about how we do this where, There are a lot of ministries out there that they want to like battle against each other, and they want to fight and argue amongst themselves. A lot of them want to sit there and say, well, go even back to John. We can go back to John. We can think about that. We talked about John a couple weeks ago, where Judas, I think it was actually last week, how Judas was saying, hey, she shouldn't be pouring all of this perfume over your feet. Instead, how about we sell it and give the money to the poor? Well, that type of philosophy, that type of thinking, the type that comes from a thief's heart, a selfish ambition, a jealousy and an envy, that same type of motive is actually out there in a lot of different ministries, that they'll point to other churches, other denominations, and they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be saying this. And you know why we shouldn't be doing it? Because if we do it that way, then it won't do this. And talking about, we use examples of ministries, and we use this illustration of a ministry that has like private jets, and well, they shouldn't have private jets. Selfishness. And then what winds up happening is we start teaching out of that selfishness, out of that envy, out of that jealousy even. And because we start teaching out of that, well, James is saying you shouldn't be teaching. You've got to watch what it is that you're saying. We often think about this, and especially in our culture, especially here in Western culture, when we think about prosperity, we think of it only in terms of financial. And so we think of financial prosperity, but yet there's more to prosperity than just the financial. There is a spiritual prosperity. There is a mental prosperity. There is an emotional prosperity. We can be prosperous and in health, even as our soul prospers, is how, Peter that actually says that. And so we think about that prosperity aspect. Oftentimes, especially in the United States, we want to put this harsh emphasis on the prosperity preaching is wrong because they're all about the money. Well, quite frankly, you're the ones that kind of made it all about the money. When I preach prosperity, it's not just the money. It's every aspect of our lives. And sometimes money isn't even a currency that would actually benefit a lot of people. If you think of a lot of the indigenous tribes, they don't need money. That's not prosperity to them at all. But what happens for us, because that is our currency, we want more of it, so we start preaching against it, and yet the Bible doesn't do that. The Bible doesn't preach against money at all. It preaches against the love of money. So this is one of those examples where we can start teaching something, and if we're not careful, what's actually going to happen is we're going to be judged more strictly, not just because of what we said, but because of what somebody else heard. Our words, our speech can then become a stumbling block to somebody else. So James is like, hey, watch your lips, watch your mouth, watch that tongue of yours. He even talks about this, and he says that, where was it? He said it's poison. Where was it? Right here in verse 8. Look at that. Verse 8, he says, no human being can subdue the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison, which goes with Proverbs 18:21. The Message translation says that words kill, words give life. They're either poison or fruit. You choose. And that's something that we ought to do. We ought to choose our words wisely. All right, so let's jump in here some more. Michael saying, yes, it's the mouth every time. The mouth. Shanda saying it's a small piece, but mighty destructive when it is used inconsiderately. I like that. And then loose lips sink ships, which is, just a very accurate, what do we call those? Idioms? Yeah, a very accurate idiom, especially for this when it's talking about the tongue, our speech, and how it resembles a ship. So I like that as well. Mama's saying that she is here and got Pastor Colleen and Marvin with us as well. Hello, y'all. Good to see that you are here as well. We like this. If you guys have got some thoughts here from James chapter 3 that we're just kind of jumping out to you, go ahead and let me know. If not, well, that's all right. We'll be able to kind of pull up some other thoughts that I had here. Here's one that I also wanted to to talk about this. Look at this one, actually. Verse, what is that? 9? Talking about our mouths. Think about how we do this. We will not only bless God with our lips, but then we actually curse the humans that were made in his image and likeness. So it's like we're blessing the Father, but we're cursing those that look like the Father. That doesn't make any sense. Like, zero whatsoever. I don't know why we would do that. Why? He's telling us these things shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It's like salt water coming out of a fresh spring. It shouldn't happen. It's not the case. It makes you actually wonder, when this happens, if salt water is coming out of a freshwater spring, is it really a freshwater spring? So if we claim to be Christ-like, if you didn't know, that's what Christian means. It means Christ-like. So if we claim to be Christ-like, but we don't talk like Christ, are we like Christ? Things that make you go, Let's look at this one. Who's wise among you? Who's wise? I like the heading here, true wisdom. We think we're wise. We think we have understanding. But it says it's by the good conduct he should show his works done in gentleness that wisdom brings. So maybe here's something we also think about. The words that we're saying, the manner in which we're saying. I think it was actually Mike that said this. Look at this. Mike Sells saying, the way we say it and the tone of it. Is that gentle? If it's not gentle, well, did it come from wisdom? Did it come from understanding? And can we claim to be wise if our speech doesn't have a gentleness about it? I hope you realize these are all rhetorical questions I'm asking you, the same way that James is asking, who is wise and has understanding among you? It was a rhetorical question because he answers, it's by the good conduct. He shows his works done in gentleness. That's what wisdom brings. Shanda saying, why would we as Christians break people down when we're to build others up? Very good question. Very good question. I do not have the answer to that unless it might actually be here. This type of wisdom doesn't come from above, but it is earthly, natural, demonic. For where there's jealousy and selfishness, there is disorder and every evil practice. So maybe Christians breaking people down rather than building them up are because they don't have the mind of Christ. Maybe they don't have wisdom and understanding, at least not true wisdom that comes from above, but rather a false wisdom that comes from here, comes from this earth, comes from the natural man, the selfish man, and it might also be demonic wisdom, which, if we remember last night, we were talking about theology and how demon theology believes in God, but just doesn't act like they believe in God. In other words, demon theology doesn't obey. So demonic wisdom tears people down and doesn't build them up. These are some good thoughts. Just things that roll around in your head when you're reading through a little chapter like James chapter 3. The dude says, hello, I'm late, but I'm here. Good to see you. Glad you are here. Mom saying, we should be open to hear from others. I have been checked on my tone when I didn't even realize it. You know, that's a really good point. that sometimes it's not even about what we say, but what is heard, which we can go back to the beginning of this chapter. The reason that we who are teaching are judged more strictly is because it's not just what comes out of our mouths when we're intending to come out, but what other people receive from that. It's how they receive it, how they interpret even what we're saying. And so sometimes you might have heard this said that there's always a little bit of truth to perception. The way others perceive you, there's an element of truth in there. It's not the whole picture of truth, but there's an element of it. And so sometimes it is important for us to be open to hear what others are saying. If others are saying that our tone is harsh, that it's not gentle, that's something that we should really receive and think about it. And okay, I didn't mean for it to come across that way. So where's the disconnect from where my heart is in wanting it to be encouraging and build people up, and how they receive it when it's actually breaking them down? I like that. Charles saying, in my experience, most people point at others out of shame and want people to look at others so they don't see their own issues. Yeah, it's a lot of deflection. A lot of deflection is why people are doing it. And really, this goes back to the garden. This goes back to the very beginning. Adam and Eve, in their own shame, they experienced shame. I was ashamed because I was naked and afraid, and all of a sudden in that moment, what does Adam do? Hey God, it's the woman you gave me. It was, look what she did. And the woman tries to deflect as well and be like, but it was the serpent that you, God, actually let in the garden. It's deflecting. It's trying to get our attention off of our own shortcomings. True wisdom will sit there and understand what it actually says at the beginning of this chapter. I mean, we all stumble. If someone doesn't stumble in what he says, he's perfect. Well, there's only one that was perfect. We all will stumble in many ways, and at least just acknowledging that, yes, we are going to stumble. So when we've said something that comes across in a harsh manner and it doesn't come across gentle, when we've maybe taught something that all of a sudden was taken the wrong way and it was taken in a form that isn't 100% biblically accurate, at that point, we need to be able to acknowledge, hey, I made a mistake. I messed up. I said this. That's not what I meant to say. Let me try to rephrase this. I've had some of these conversations with people, throughout my life where I will try to say something, and oftentimes I'll see their face, and it's like the reaction that's on their face isn't the reaction I thought they were going to have. So what often happens is I'll just ask them a question, not what did I say, but what did you hear me say? Sometimes when I've done like marriage counseling or any type of marriage ministry, I'll do that with husbands and wives where I'll have one of them say something to the other and then ask the other spouse, what did you hear them say? And it never fails. There's always this breakdown in that communication where what one is trying to say something, that is not what the other person hears. And so sometimes we need to be good at trying to interpret that. For then those of us that are trying to teach the Word of God, we need to be very careful, which is why James says, not many of you should be teachers. Not many of you should be doing this. The reason is you've got to be able to not only watch what it is that you say and how it comes across, but you've also got to be able to kind of interpret your own speech the way that others would interpret it so that you can make sure they don't stumble in it. And so this is just, one of those things that it can be tricky. It can be mentally exhausting at times. However, when a husband and wife, they figured out how to communicate more effectively, so say what they want to say and what they mean to say in a way that their spouse can actually hear it and understand it. When that communication starts to happen, lots of good things coming out of that. So, there we go. I don't think there was really anything else there that jumped out to me in that, other than just this last little bit here. Verse 17, it says, wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, accommodating, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial, not hypocritical. And so this might be an encouragement for us when we're trying to say something to somebody and we're trying to make sure that that speech comes from a place of wisdom and understanding. Is it pure? As in the motive behind it. Is it pure? Not selfish. Is it peaceable? Is it going to create peace and harmony, not a division and distraction? Is it gentle? Is it accommodating, full of mercy, good fruit? As in, is it going to produce something good? Is it impartial, not showing favoritism, and not hypocritical, which means I'm not telling you to do something that I'm not already doing myself? These are the things that maybe we need to think about, especially when we're giving advice to people, when we're trying to teach them as well. So, those are my thoughts. That's what I got going on for you guys. That's what we have for this lovely, what is it, Wednesday evening? I don't even know what day it is. Wednesday, May 6th. That's what it is. That's what we've got. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope you found some good stuff out of it. Tomorrow we'll be back, 7 o'clock Central Time, for James chapter 4. We're about there. We're about ready to get through this small little book, my favorite book of the Bible. So that's what we've got. Love y'all. Glad you could be here. Until tomorrow, I want y'all to stay blessed, enjoy God's best, and have a great evening.